Yes.
I've been real sore on both sides.
Yeah.
It's passing stones on it.
Uh-oh.
Williamsport. No. It's fine. It's about time. My picture's not up there. Why not?
It says it's recording. No, I don't know why,
On radio station.
but it says recording.
10 o'clock in the morning.
You are?
I'm gonna be on the radio station. They're gonna interview me. My childhood. It was so interesting, you know.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Canoe Church of Christ. We are a forward-leaning expression of Christianity with the individual expression of their faith is welcome. All are welcome. Announcements?
The donation jar for the people that were burned out over in the western part of the state, that's still on the table. You have any updates for us?
I did hear that some people are starting to move in where they covered for that. I'm not sure about that. So there's only a portion of it that's burned. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I can't say for sure, but they say that some people are moving back where the apartments weren't burned. And there is a law built at 60 some apartments in there.
Okay, how many more weeks do we want to collect?
One more.
One more? Okay,
Like, what are you collecting?
we are collecting for the burnout victims. There's a donation jar on the table out there, and if you are donating the actual product, the towels and the cleaning supplies and what have you, we'll collect one more week.
Is that sufficient or do you want to go to?
So that includes next Sunday, you're gonna collect still Sunday. Okay.
Yep, it's up to you.
Calvin,
All right, we're going to
Calvin?
next Sunday and the week after, and then we'll have a packing party.
I have an announcement. I have the Lenten, I have a box of Lenten devotionals and offering boxes over here.
One from the food pantry for donations that we made recently, so, that's good.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
The donations towards the homeless shelter, is that monetary or is that belongings, like donating clothes or anything? How is that?
The local homeless shelter?
Yeah.
Talk to the Carol.
Very often monetary, because we are in the process of starting to build a new shelter in the spring, as soon as the ground decides to unfreeze enough that we can do something.
Okay.
And so we are trying to take down our supplies a little bit, so we don't have as much to keep while that's going on.
Okay.
So that's primarily and you can put it through the treasurer just by marking on a check or money with a
Okay. I just wasn't sure. if it was
sticker.
supplies or what.
We do that too, but right now we are doing less of that because we have the building project coming up.
Okay.
So, thank you. Thank you for asking. We appreciate all the help we can get.
Calvin,
A song that he composed that sings, Where Love Flows.
am I shushed? I guess.
There's no place they'd rather be
You are the salt and the and you are the place will always go. You are the place that gave me, and you are the place where love flows. That the truth is hard to find, and you want to believe a beautiful lie. For when your leaves go up in smoke, the church will be there so you don't show. You are the salt and the apple, and you are the place of always go. You are the place that keep me, and you are the place where love flows. Where you are, oh, that straight guitar, no matter where you go, you can always go. You are the salt and the apple, and you are the place will always go. You are the place that gave me, and you are the place where love flows. You are the salt and the apple, and you are the place will always go. You are the place that gave me, and you are the place where love flows. That little white church nobody sees, but there's no place you'd rather be.
Won't you join me in prayer? The Lord is our light and our salvation. Whom then shall we fear? In this, the house of the Lord, in this place, where we may dwell all the days of our lives. We seek the beauty of God, the care that comforts all pain, and the love that holds all things in life, the holiness that draws us away from evil, the justice that demands our very best, the providence that gives all that we need, the hope that assures us that our faith is not in vain, and that we have nothing to fear. Here among people, and with people in every church and Christian community, we seek and we find the God who does not forsake us, who tells us, "You are mine." So gathering we worship, worshiping we rejoice, and rejoicing we prepare to serve. We ask this in the name of the one who calls us to be one, Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen. 86. In the thin one, change my heart, O God. 86. My sequence is a little off today, so I'll introduce the message and then we will sing the hymn of praise. The title of the message this week is going to be like a tree, and it's going to look into the question, do we use little, how much do we use literal language when we speak? That's one of the questions that I'm going to deal with. But first, we're going to sing the hymn of praise, which is He Needed Me, 545. Before I start the message, I want to remind just remember that this is Black History Month, and also this week is Valentine's Day. So the title of the message is Like a Tree. And I'm going to read several passages, and we're going to try to understand the meaning of tree and how it's not meant, how we can understand meanings within the Bible in a non-literal way. I'm going to use that word non-literal and literal. I'm going to use two words as interchanging. I'm not going to mention all the different types of non-literal speech that we use, but that is the crux of the message, and I'm going to use the word tree. And before I start reading, I listened to the weather report, and it said, we are under a blinding cloud. Interesting way it works. It's a non-literal expression of how we understand. And so I'm going to start with Jeremiah, and I picked up a couple of passages that was one of the first lectionary ones, and it is referring to and comparing us to a tree. Accursed is the one who trusts in man, who draws strength from mere flesh, whose heart turns away from the Lord. That person will be like a brush in the wasteland. They will not see prosperity when it comes. They will dwell in the parched places of the desert, in the salt land where no one lives. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They are like a tree planted by the water, that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when the heat comes. Its leaves are always green, and has no worry in a year of drought, and never fails to bear fruit. The next one I want to read is Psalms, if I can find it real quick, Psalm 1. And this is again about the individuals, comparing a person to the fruit of a tree. Psalm 1:1. Blessed is the one who does not walk in the steps of the wicked, nor stand in the way that sinners take, nor sit in the company of the mockers, but who delights in the law of the Lord, meditates on the law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by a stream of water, which yields its fruit in the season, and whose leaves do not wither whenever they do prosper. Then I'm going to read in Ezekiel. This is the longest passage. And here is the use of tree is used to describe the great strength of a nation and how it's going to, and the effect that it has. And it has to be talking about Egypt at the time, but here it goes. Ezekiel 31. Who can compare with you in majesty? Consider Assyria, once a cedar in Lebanon, with beautiful branches overshadowing the forest. It towers high, it towers above the thick foliage. The waters nourish it. Deep springs make it grow tall. Their streams flow all around its base, and sends their channels to all the trees of the field. So it towered higher than all the trees of the field. Its growth increased, and its branches grew long, spreading because of the abundant waters. All the birds of the sky nested in its burst. All the animals of the wild gave birth under its branches. All the great nations lived in its shade. It was majestic in beauty, with its spreading branches. For its roots went down to the abundant waters. The cedars in the garden of God could not rival it, nor could the junipers equal its birth, nor could the plane trees compare with its branches. No tree in the garden of God could match its beauty. It made its beauty with abundant branches, and the envy of all the trees of Eden in the garden of God. I'm going to read one more, and Jesus uses the same analogy in the mustard seed. It's only 2 verses. The kingdom of God is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it was the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of the garden of plants, and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. So again, I want to talk about how we use language, non-literal language, most of the time, percentage-wise, which I will get to. Communication with others and ourselves is a complicated art or form. I gave the example about the night of snow. In the political realm, recently, I heard that there was a replacement for the Supreme Court, and the majority leader, Mitch McConnell, wanted a more textual candidate, where President Biden wanted a more living expression of the document, or understood the document of the Constitution in a more living way. So, in our everyday world in which we are in, how you understand different things, different documents, depends on your point of view. I'm not going to articulate the government's point of view. I'm not interested in that. But I do want how do we understand these texts that I just read? How do we understand, if we don't understand the metaphoric language, the symbolic language of the use of the tree? You kind of get lost in the whole text. What is our intent when we are reading the Bible? Do we want to confirm our preconceived ideas? Or is it that we really want to listen? Too often we want to go and prove our pre-existing ideas within the context of the Bible, so we're not really necessarily interested in listening. It is true that when we read, do we listen? Do we really listen as we are reading? willing to read the way we want to read, or be the things that we want to be. We're setting on our mountain, and we have a view of all the others. A mountain is used within the Bible as a symbolic meaning of an idea that rises up to a mountain. And so each one of us have trees on our mountain in which we want to view the valley. But can we, or are we willing to step out of our walled-in set of beliefs and really begin to think outside of it? Are we willing to be walking in the shoes of others' thought shoes? Or are we only interested in what we want to see or to confirm what we believe? The word tree is used in the Bible about 360 times. Tree or trees, plural, throughout the Bible. There's all kinds of trees that are mentioned, and they're usually trees that bear some type of fruit. And so the idea of a tree is an idea that bears fruit. There are, as I said, about every kind of mention of physical trees, but also in Genesis, there is the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. And also it says other trees were there. If you listen to the Ezekiel text, it refers to other trees. In Genesis, in plain sight in our view in which we see things, in chapter 1, there is 2 verses of the use of the tree, and in chapter 1 it is created. It is created along with all the other trees, and the bushes and the shrubs that bear fruit. And in the second application of it, it becomes food to eat. We are allowed to eat it. So, does it move from a physical understanding of the tree is actually created? We understand the physical, we see a tree outside. And then it goes towards the end of chapter 1, it says that it's good to eat, and it makes sense well, it keeps us healthy. It's good food to eat. So here I see it moving from, you can understand that both as spiritual food or physical food. So here it is beginning to change. And then when it refers to the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and tree of life, and also says there's other trees, then understanding the tree, you have to understand it more metaphorically or non-literal in order to understand the meaning of the tree. So here's 3 examples right from the very beginning of the Bible of the use of the tree in order to give us an understanding of how to look forward into the Bible and understand the meaning of just this one word. There's many words that flow through the Bible in this way. But you must understand it in a non-literal way, or you don't have to understand what the text is even talking about. There was a gentleman who figured out exactly percentage-wise how much of our language is nonverbal and verbal in words, and he says 55% is nonverbal in communicating, 38% is vocal, and only 7% we use words to understand. Another study said 70 to 92% is nonverbal. What does that mean? Does that mean? Yes.
Non-verbal, you're using your expression, the eye-to-eye contact, smiles, frowns, you're using your hands.
So, yes, I agree. So, when you text something, can you feel the person's intent in the text?
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Most times, no,
Is that just you?
probably.
I'm not saying it's out of you, Bob. I think there's an energy around the words. And I think you can feel that if you really are listening. Again, are you listening? Or are you always in a literal sense? What did the person say? I used to struggle tremendously over texts and what have you. Now I just throw them out. Because I was always worried about every little word and every little text and every little thing. But I think if you type that in there, you can pick that up. You can tell whether the person is angry, upset, or just wants to give you information. And there's very different ways that you can see it.
Especially if you know the person, you know what the likes and dislikes are, and what's going to set them off, or what to say them back, Especially that. And then they're using all caps, they're yelling.
That's a what?
They're using all capitals, they're yelling.
Yes. So you can tell in a nonverbal way, even though you're not standing in front of somebody. I do believe that there's a lot of communication that goes on with the hand, the eyes, the way people move, the way you sit, and all of that. So we are in a nonverbal sense, for sure. One of the pieces that I meant that if you write something and only the little language is dry and boring. So when you get a package out that you want to have to assemble, you get this new thing that you nightstand or whatever it is you want to have, a TV stand, you're all excited about it, and it comes in a box with instructions. Now the instructions are boring and dry, step by step. Right? There's no like, punching here and there. I learned that, no, you don't go to this step and then think go back to this step. It made it, I see this part, but I forgot this part. I read the instructions. But they're boring and dry.
You're one of the few men who do that.
I've learned because I had to shamefully take it apart and say I did it on the wrong. So I said, okay, I'll just do that. So I learned.
I learned to sit there and read the instructions and tell my husband, this is next.
Is y'all listening?
He finally learned that.
Yeah, so you understand what I'm saying? There's different ways of expressing. Non-literal expression is used most of the time to describe most of our language around. I have a word that I use to my friends when I'm not quite sure what they are talking about. I say, you're talking in higher dialects. And I always get them upset. But it is hard to understand sometimes when you get too far out in non-literal expression. How do you understand what somebody means? Polite language, poems and what have you. They are written in a non-literal sense. So right here, I'm going to throw in a lyrics to a song that some of you may know. I'm hoping I'm not stepping on anybody's infringement right? But it was written by the band called Rush, and Neil, the drummer, wrote these words. And it's about trees. And you'll probably recognize it, some of you will. There's unrest in the forest, there is trouble with the trees, with the maples want more sunshine, and the oaks ignore their pleas. The trouble with the maples, and they're quite convinced they're right, they say the oaks are just too lofty. And they grab all the light, but the oaks can't help their feelings. They like the way they are made. And they wonder why the maples just can't be happy in their shade. There is trouble in the forest, and the creatures all have fled. As the maples scream, oppression, and the oaks just shake their heads. So the maples form a union and they demand equal rights, and they say, the oaks are just too greedy. We will make them give us light. Now there's no more oak oppression, for they have passed a noble law, and the trees are all kept equal by the hatchet, axe, and saw. How do you see that poem on that page? The writer at the time, Neil, saw a cartoon and wrote the song. And he says he understood it as just how people are. He related it to people. So there's nothing in there that says anything about people. But yet it speaks the way we are in a non-literal sense. It's so plain. How can you see it? Not see it. I love that song. I always have loved that song. I think it's a great song. Yes, we stand on literal words. There's no question about it. We have to have literal words to stand. But I want to look at it as if we're standing on these physical words, and we're standing on this physical mountain peak or range, looking over the valley, and trying to describe the beauty, how would we do it? Would this person's view be different, that person's view be different? As we move down the ridge of the mountain, the top of the mountain, our views would change. It's always fluid. It's always changing. It's always, and everybody's description of it is going to be different. But yet we stand on literal words. We have no other way to start. But does the view dictate our words, or does our words dictate our view? Which controls us, or which influences us? The view. And then we use literal words to describe it.
Because that's how we pass, what our favorite thinking is, and then, so we'll either use good words or bad words, it's just because we need something, we like to go with down, you know.
So what happens if you walk, go up to the peak of the mountain and you stand up and say, I want to see this tree, and I want to see this, and I want to see that, and I want to see that rock ledge over there. And I want to... So, yeah.
Well, it's like when there's a car accident, you can have 5 people that saw it. Each one will have a different idea of what happened, a different description. It's how you see it, how you process it, that makes it different. Even literal words can be taken in a different way by different people.
So then which view becomes right?
Doesn't have to be one right there, it depends on what you will be seeing it and you're doing something too.
Depends on how you think mentally about things too. I think that there is one right view.
Your view is influenced by your experience.
So you have this body experience, so you're looking out there and assessing it by what you have knowledge inside, and you're looking out. So the influence of what you know and understand things in your life influence your view. I think that, yes.
But even there, which do you count as more important? Experience in the world or book learning experience?
Well, if you learn it in a book, then you have to go and apply it.
You have to know that it would work in the world, real world.
Well, I know lots of things that work very well in the book. Apply it, and it's not. In most cases, that happens a lot.
Can't really have one without the other.
Yeah, you can. Right. You can. We have to stay on some kind of physicalness in order to look it out in a subjective world. You have to have both.
I'm not against books. My husband will tell you I have way too many.
Well, we're all afraid they're book smart, but they're, we go out and try to do something. I know people and that's okay. I mean, I'm not, it takes everybody working together. I have a brother who's now passed, who he could read a repair manual and tell me exactly what to do step by step, but he couldn't get his hands to it. He just couldn't do it. Not very well. He struggled very hard doing it. So it does say we are talented in a lot of different ways. So we use literal words as guideposts and exits and on-ramps to a more fluid world of thought. So is wisdom a preset, predetermined set of ideas? Is wisdom the knowledge that comes from experience?
You come back to everybody's experience is different, so everybody has different views.
So in the world today in which we are so divided, not only politically, but religiously, so how do you see maybe how we can come together? What kind of steps can be had to move our, as we all know, we are very divided and very segmented. got here, everybody's view is equal or somewhat, should be acknowledged, then it has to go out beyond yourself to understand other people's ideas. You have to move beyond yourself and then come back in. There has to be this movement that happens to some degree. The protest of the strike of the truckers who want both nations to roll back vaccine mandates. They're demanding one thing, but as we listened to Bill Maher last night, he was saying it's a larger thing that they want. I'm not totally convinced of that, but nevertheless.
But I am.
But that's okay. I'm not convinced. But because I see what they're fighting for as a more segmented idea, more of a conservative idea, and not necessarily looking at people who are already vaccinated. They want to, just get rid of it all. So who is right? What's going to happen in this situation? We don't know. Probably what will happen. I told Connie years ago, I was involved in the truck strike in the 80s or whatever it was, 70s, 80s, when we were complaining about drug testing. When the truck drivers were one of the first people who started getting drug tested, and then moved to the general public. And we protested it. We struck and did all kinds of things. But look what happened. Didn't really do anything. They went on to do it. We lost a lot of time and a lot of frustration. And I see this as being the same. There was a need for the truck community to be drug tested. We had a problem. A lot of people had problems back then. And so it is much better now because we are drug tested. Even though I complain when they call me up on the phone and say, hey, you gotta go get a drug test. I don't like it. It's an invasion of my privacy. But yet, for the greater good, I have to do it. It's the law. So the benefit of looking outside of ourselves to a greater good or a broader view helps us understand one another.
Okay, so what about the trucker strikes in Canada? And then the trucker strikes in America that are going on now because of the COVID vaccine?
Well, I think the one in America just might take ground. I don't think it's going to. Most of it, like 90% of the truck drivers in Canada, they said are already vaccinated. So you're only talking about a small percentage, and I think you're going to find that down here.
Wasn't it mainly about being able to cross, that they wanted you to, if you weren't vaccinated, to be tested and quarantined for 2 weeks? That was my understanding.
Well, they wanted, both nations said that if you cross the border as a truck driver, you had to be vaccinated. But there was a stipulation where if you weren't, you had to get a test and you had to be quarantined for 7 days. But who's going to want to do that?
Yeah, but they were exempt for a while.
Yeah, so as long as that we were
That's
exempt.
what they want, locking that down.
We went really back and forth with no vaccine, no one cared.
Well, you guys, when you come over, you don't really interact with the public. You're just there and then you get your stuff loaded off and then you get another load. I mean, you're not in the United States or Canada for 7 days or whatever. You're just there for the day, right?
Well, you can be in there longer than that.
Just take your temperature when you come across the border. That's all you need.
I don't like the law. This is what they're fussing about. I mean, I think it's they're going to lose. That's basically what's going to happen. Nations are not going to change because the greater good is for everyone to be vaccinated. It's just the way it is. I mean, so just because we have this idea and that we want to stand on this idea doesn't make us right. We have to look outside of our idea and say, okay, I understand there's something greater going on here than just what I want. And that seems to be that, even in religious faith, there are some, I read an article, I printed it out, there is a segment of Christianity that prides itself in understanding the Bible literally. And you don't go too far. But most scholars will say, if not all scholars will say, the Bible is, you cannot understand the Bible literally. It's impossible. But yet, there is a segment of the Christianity, and you will all know that, who prides themselves in understanding it literally. I don't know how they do it. I think what they do is they segment out different parts of the Bible and they only preach that. pick apart and really put the trees still.
Well, I've got relatives who believe that the world was actually made in 10 days.
10 days?
Well, 10 days, sorry.
6 days?
6 days.
And rest.
Oh, yeah. The creationists believe that it was made in 6 24-hour days. They understand the Bible in a literal sense, rather than a time scale.
It also is a very different time frame for how old the world is.
Yes.
It's considerably younger if you're a literal believer.
Yeah. And this is alive and well. This is not funny stuff that we're just making up. These people are smart, knowledgeable people, and they believe that it's created. Well, I'm not going to say that just because of some of the religious ideas are different than mine, that they're, I have to learn to accept them and understand that they think differently.
But they should believe in the science.
Their science is different.
Yes.
And you just go with the vaccine, other people's science are different, but all of us believe in the science.
If you want to come across the border has to get vaccinated. Simple as that. You want to say you don't country, that's fine. I do understand this is a complex stuff. Understanding and trying to get everything to play together and work together for the greater good of God. I think from the human eyes, it's almost impossible to see for us to make it work. And I don't know if it necessarily will ever work. I don't know what you think, but nevertheless. So trees, in my reality, and what I read, is seen as thought systems and way to understand. They are the one in Ezekiel I read about the cedars of Lebanon and all that, and how the branches reached out. There's a lot of language about how a nation influenced the world. So it's a tree that sits on the top of a mountain of ideas and it spreads its branches out and is nourished by a spirit of living water and it's poetic language that you describe. The Garden of Eden also, if you between knowledge of good and evil and to the right, and then it also says with other trees in the garden, is about thought systems and way to understand. It's not a tree with all its branches and all the way one idea affects another. We just talked about how your idea affects other people, so it creates a forest.
Well, that idea means that in essence, we all came from the same thought. We just ended up with different ideas, so we should be able to tolerate each other a little better because of it.
Yes and no. Yes. I guess I'll explain it this way. So I think ideas become developed. Yes, they come out of the same spirit energy and what have you, but there's different beings and different sources that take that energy and develop it into a different fruit tree. So not every fruit tree and not every tree bears the same fruit. So, and then this is where I think the level of gods. There are gods, smaller gods, social beings, whatever you have, what we call them, who manipulate, to take advantage of ideas to manipulate people. I think it's very complicated, not really very complicated, but what I sum it up is what you believe in your heart is your God. That's the God you serve. It controls you, it manipulates you, it convinces you of everything else. What you believe in your heart.
Yeah, but if you only had one God system and didn't listen to others, your faith in your heart might change. In a way, it's saying there's endless possibilities. There may be no one right way.
Well, science proves that. That once you leave the world of physical reality, of physical physics, and you get into quantum physics and chaos, there is no predetermined knowledge. Everything is proven. We seem to think that science is provable, concrete, and it's not. We're only our reality that we are self-deceive ourselves into thinking that it's solid, firm, and concrete.
Oh, nobody
Yes,
told
we
me
do.
that, you know, and so I feel like it's being determined, we're like, oh, I never thought of it that way.
But you have to have the capability of a doorway to get into your tree or into your forest.
And that's what, you know, the mind and listen to other people's different, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But how do you move people who are so narrow-minded, who don't want to and will not? This is where we're at in the world today. And every issue you can think of. So I described the tree as being towering above, meaning above all the other ones. So it means that it has the power above other thought systems and other belief systems. And the Bible also uses one of the reasons I started off in Jeremiah about shrubs and death. So that's also used as described that you are spiritually dried up. So if you're in a water garden, which is land within us, so I take the Genesis story and move it within us, we become the land. Jesus takes the land and says it's with us. It doesn't matter what happens over in the Middle East or people of the following Christ teachings. The land becomes our hearts and minds. And there's where the trees grow. And they're watered by the Spirit. And thus, we flourish. Too many people are caught in an old, dried up way that needs to be moved away. There's languages such as garden, land, soil, seeds, desert, mountain, hills, and valleys, all kinds of metaphoric language used throughout the Bible. I want to throw this in, and I didn't know really where to put it. So I'm real close to the end. And hanging somebody on a tree. We have, for years, used for capital punishment in the Wild West and in the South. We all know the stories of lynchings and what have you, where we hang people on trees. Well, biblically, that is an abomination. So if you're going to go under the Jewish law, you are supposed to kill the person first, or terminate his life first, and then you can hang him up on a tree as an example. But you are not to use the tree to kill the person. That is an abomination, and that is punishable in the Old Testament law. And you are supposed to take that person down by nightfall, because you become accursed. That's the word. Cursed and accursed are two different words. Uncursed means you become a kind of a bad, I can't think of the word right now, I don't have it written down here, but you become like an abomination, or you become, I can't think of the word, but anyway, you become less than good, for sure. So,
You had to bury the person by sunset anyway, in
Do
Jewish
what?
law. In Jewish law, you have to bury the person by sunset.
yeah, well, I'm just talking about hanging somebody from a tree.
Yeah, but what you're saying is that's probably what.
That's true too, you do have to, yeah, you are supposed to put the person in the ground, or if he files a line. Yeah. So what you're not, what I found interesting it's in Deuteronomy somewhere, I have written out somewhere, that 22 something, that this has a little couple verses where it is. Yeah, there we go. You do my thing.
Well, it's an entirely always, I love performing, it's the weeping tree, it's a service for holy, but they use that verse, the verse.
Okay.
Curse is the one who's hung on the tree.
Yes. But
Probably paraphrase.
Paul uses that as Christ being put up on the cross and being cursed like that. The word should have been accursed, not cursed. That's another small, nuanced way but it's two different words. One becomes cursed, And our curse is what should I use the word? It's not abomination, but it becomes a detestable object of some sort. You're not right with God. But curse is like, you understand curses. Curses is something that is not good. And so there's two different words. And again, the translation of the Bible is very difficult, and you have to do a lot of research. But my only point is that I somewhat believe that the people who did the hangings in the South and, in the medieval times and what have you, by hanging the person on a tree, they themselves became cursed. Not necessarily the person, the victim. I think the feedback that came because of that. And it's my sense of the thing, of what I've read so far.
Yeah, and there was that one, black singer, that had that strange fruit that talks about people hanging on a tree. You know what I'm talking about? Who said that? It was, that's really talking about.
That whole idea that we think that we can hang somebody up, use hanging and lynching, and that was a Judeo-Christian idea that was used in the South to get rid of for punishment. Really, I think backfired, in a sense, real backfire on people.
I said, hopefully.
I'm going to close with a couple little sayings or little whatever. I do like the Matthew mustard seed, where the Jesus teaching becomes the largest tree in our garden, and it flourishes, the love of the neighbor, all of the Jesus teaching. And I really love that metaphoric language, but it comes from some of the verses that I read early on in the Old Testament. Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote these words: "The trees reflect the river. They are unconscious of the spiritual world so near them, and so are we." Another saying, near as I could tell, is a Greek saying: "A civilization flourishes when people plant trees under whose shade they will never sit." There's an ancient Chinese proverb that I will close with this. "Keep a green tree in your heart, and perhaps a singing bird will come." Remind you that the meeting is in the back as well as in the offering, and thank you for your giving. Just like I was saying, there is a time.
I saw the street. And shall be till I die. Oh Lord, and shall be till I die. Sweet blood, and shall be till Praise God, all my saints above. Praise God, creatures living God. Praise God, godly and above. Creator Christ, their Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thank you, O God, for the many blessings that you give us. For each one you gave, I bless whatever means it is. Bless each one with you. Hymn number 405, in memory of our Savior's love. 405. I wish our souls are it's love, it's God that was the Savior's child. In every ear we see the wonders of His love. And pass and taste day by day the heavenly peace of God. The welcome table is set. Everyone is welcome to partake. It is open to every mind, every heart, and may God bless each one. And on the night in which Jesus was betrayed, he took a loaf of bread, and he broke it, and he said to his disciples, "Eat all of you, for this represents my body, broken for all. May our sins be forgiven." And again, Jesus took the chalice and poured some wine into it, and he said to his disciples, "Drink all of you, for this is my life poured out and given for all. A new life. Help us, O God, to live a new life." We are commanded by Jesus as often as we eat this meal to remember and to reflect on God's goodness and mercy. In God's Holy Spirit, we are to share this meal together as we gather. Another time, you can each just help each one, face to face, love. This is the time of our joys and concerns. To be back in service again. It's amazing how much you lose in 1 week of the flow of the service. It is amazing how you don't notice it. So I'm glad we had this.
If we could keep Tom down in our prayers still, he is home, he's struggling now, getting around and this confusion. Husband has to get rid of his livestock, which to Tom is a big deal. He's really upset about that. And my wife here, with her continued healing, she's still trying to get this.
Yeah, Tom and I always have wishes. I had a privilege of riding from 6 or 6 inches, that little wagon. I really had a name on it. Yeah, I like Tom. He's a good guy. Any others?
For my prayers for my granddaughter and her family, they've got a situation they're trying to resolve, and it's causing a great deal of anxiety.
Donald is still struggling with recuperating from, I guess, COVID, but he has some underlying issues.
And Calvin,
Yes,
for Shane, for Shane,
Prayers for Shane.
Shane,
oh, Shane, yes, I haven't. He can really. Spring is coming, getting warmer, starting to melt.
And freeze. And melt.
At least it's beginning to freeze and melt. We're over the stage where it's not frozen. So I'm so looking forward to spring for sure. You know, it's still beautiful.
Little bit sad is Robin, so I haven't seen it, but I've heard people.
people have said they've seen it.
I have a real concern about, I'm just really upset with stuff with Russia and Belarus and, Ukrainian people. I mean, Putin wants to invade, and we've got our troops back over there again, and, they way outnumber the American troops. And I'm just really, it's really weighing heavy on me, because it touches my life.
okay,
You know, I agree with you. I'm not really sure what's going on, but things could really get out of hand. It is a very tense situation. But then again, you can say, I just had some fun at home.
I heard the Ukrainian president say we're really beginning with hysteria. The Ukrainian president said the United States is creating hysteria and they don't need that.
You know,
Yeah, I haven't even heard that. Any investment.
Well, he's gonna go all over, it's like President Trump.
Yeah,
I don't know, and he has, it is a concern.
It's hard to interpret. They've been in a state of guerrilla warfare in parts of the country for roughly 8 years. And so they have a very, again, factual or not, they have a very different view of what's going on. And you don't know whether he's downplaying it legitimately or whether he has an ulterior motive for downplaying what's going on. It's hard to put it in perspective, and our experience is very different than theirs. So at this point, it's very difficult to know what, how we should be feeling, but it certainly is not something that is pleasant to watch going on.
No.
But my mind is that how would we feel with all that guns pointing at us? And how comfortable would we be in that situation? Yes.
If you're really totally, absolutely cynical, you could say that war is always good for the economy.
What's good for the world?
The economy.
It's a reality that's there, for sure. It's another tree that grows in our garden.
And there's still an element of our culture that sees the oceans as our protection. I mean, we were stuck with that until World War II, very solidly, but there's still an element of it's that far away. They aren't on our border. Oh, yeah. But that's still part of, the point of view within the country, and one of the reasons we're always so reluctant to, stand firmly in place on the other side of the world.
So again, you have all these different trees and different ideas in this world, but we're trying to make a forest out of it without chopping everything down.
Mm-hmm. And we all bring our experience, and if we listen to each other, but have a little trouble listening.
On the good side, did anybody say happy birthday, Bob?
Aaron Jackson, the first black woman to win the career Olympic gold medal in women 500 meters.
Good girls.
29 years old from Ocala, Florida, skated 37.04 seconds. 500 meters.
So here's an example of the Olympics that are over China, who we are, we think it's accessible, but we have first athletes over there, we get together and play games. And I know
a lot of mixed reviews on that. There is a lot of people mixed reviews on that.
Yeah.
And then when, I skated a Russian, the doping. It's kind of hard to get to the point in the end.
But still, we're in a nation that we can test.
That we need to test, and we're doing genocide.
Yeah, and we're having a good time. And so we can get a lot of our scientists communicate, right? And business communicate, we get the politicians. I don't.
Well, we have a diplomatic freeze on it. We have no diplomacy, no diplomatic representation at the Olympics.
I don't know.
No. The only people that are there are the athletes.
Yeah, I know.
So.
I guess I'm glad I waited so long.
Well,
And that's kind of a cynical way too. But all this has been going on, we think it's just only our lifetime. It's been going on ever since. But I think our weapons of war are getting to be.
Yeah. But the realism is that every time frame has a set of tensions that you're trying to deal with. And they're often very similar. And they get worse or better. Some of the medical tensions have been dealt with because science found something that made it better. Some of the war efforts not so good because the armament's worse.
If everybody just puts a bubble sword up down their arms, then we're not fighting anymore. Go home.
And then somebody wouldn't have gotten the message.
Yeah, I tell those people who like to fight.
Mhm.
And the book, we got how about pain, I was going to bring that just a little bit.
Civil War example, Jeb Stuart. He actually liked to fight. And he did it in his life in a non-military way, growing up and as a kid, et cetera, et cetera. And it motivated him during the Civil War. And I bet if you looked, you'd find characters like that scattered all through history.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, that's it.
but it's fun. It's fun. As a kid, I always thought it looked neat, and my uncle got me boxing gloves. And he used to, put his hand out, and I enjoyed myself. No, but by the same token, that it's a challenge to out.
I wasn't allowed to have it, 41 gun.
Oh, wow.
But we were not allowed. But I did manage to get, I remember, don't borrow, shotgun, it's 40 plastic. Put little parts in it, and set some black throws.
Oh, yeah.
And you pop them. That's the only gun that I was never allowed to point it at anyone. Now, I was really surprised I even got that. I did that. I used to have one of the black throws around somewhere. I don't know if it was
We won't tell you about my BB gun.
BB guns are out there.
Oh,
There's no, not- So I was ready to go up. And people were ready to tell, oh, everybody's different. I think that's, there's all still Indian now, so. Okay, that's what I'm on for my screen. That I shall never see a calm more lovely than tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast. A tree that looks and lifts her leafy arms to pray. A tree that may in the summer wear a nest of robins.
Good morning.
Upon whose breast, whose bosom snow has lain, whose always lives with rain. Palms are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Heavenly Father, thank you very much for the words that we have, that we use to express ourselves, to look deeper into understanding, wisdom, and knowledge, and your love for all of humanity. It's wintertime. It's still beautiful. It's cold and warm. We are anticipating a warmer spring, the rejuvenation of all the communities that come. But yet each day has its own beauty. Thank you. Beautiful churches across this globe of ours. Help us to come together and to share the love that we have. To be with this nation as we move forward. We're trying to negotiate peace with Russia and Ukraine. It's our desire and our expressed desire that there be peace that comes with the minds that we don't want war. It's our desire. We ask it in Jesus' name. We ask you to be with Tom Young. I see he's making some decisions himself. He is getting happy to sell his animals that he loves so well. He's tough over it. He's tough. He was those who are making these decisions. As you be with their she is healing. That's your problem, is it? Man's body is a wonderful thing. We also maybe with Shane and Lee. Shane has been ill for some weeks. We ask you to touch his body and to heal it. It's also all of us 9, walking a new page in his life, hoping to be brought back to some kind of normalcy. You have to do what you can. Yes, it is upon him also, in Jesus' name. Tommy's granddaughter who's struggling with issues. Just leave it there. That's it. You sit down, we have to, you sit down and talk and discuss and come to an understanding. We can't always get what we want. Sometimes we have to compromise. But we agree to be one. Lift us up in peace and love. That's what we want the day to say. We ask this in Jesus' name. Turn now to the Lord's Prayer. Loving God in heaven, hallowed be your kingdom come, your will be done. On earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who have offended us. Save us from the time of trial, and deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Anyone who is desiring for special prayers or would like to become a member of this church, please let somebody know and express that whenever they feel the need.
Happy birthday to Bob Woolley.
I guess I'm going to ask all of you to accept their wishes and there is a desire to become a member of this church.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So,
Calvin.
so the way I understand it is we want to get a certificate, a little something that says you are a member of this church, and then on that day, then come over and operate with you. Yeah, but for now, you are considered a member. The formality of the service is just a formality. So you are now.
Calvin.
God bless you.
Calvin.
Yay. What did Annie want?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what happened to her sound.
Happy birthday to Bob Woolley. You can't hear me?
I can hear you. Some of us can hear you.
Uh-oh. Happy birthday to Bob Woolley.
Happy birthday to Bob Woolley.
Yeah, happy birthday.
That would be the one back there.
I remember that. You need a happy birthday song, don't you?
That's all right.
He came close to making it.
You have a happy birthday song for the gentleman in the back?
Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, I'm not gonna. So, we have to- I think we have to sing the invitation hymn. 480, is that better today? No.
What's the number?
546.
546.
Please stand for the benediction, if you can. May God bless each one of you and keep each one of you. And may God's face shine upon each one of us. And may he be gracious to each one of us. And may God look upon us all with kindness and grant us peace. Amen.